of It podcast, where the cosmos meet the cards and the mundane becomes magical. I'm your guide, 𝗧𝗶𝗺𝗀𝗀, and in this episode, we'll explore the astrological transits and tarot for the first half of January 2026, with a part 2 episode coming mid-month. Now let's fill up your cup until you're soul full of it. Hello, Soulful Seekers, and thank you for joining me for the very first episode of the new year. January is here, and at least according to the Gregorian calendar, so is this portal of 2026. Astrologically speaking, we do have until the spring equinox to ring in the astrological new year, which I always feel like is worth mentioning, because many of us, myself included, don't get the like, woohoo, it's the new year kind of vibe. Because here in the Northern Hemisphere, it's winter. Everything's dying. It's cold. I want to make like a snake because it's technically still the year of the snake and hibernate. But thankfully, it is also Capricorn season, which means it's the time where we can channel our inner Brittany and work bitch. But what if working looks different for you this year? What if resting was reframed to be just as important as the hustle? These are some of the shifts that are on my mind as we step from one calendar year into another. Very much like a portal, minus the eclipse energy. We're not there yet, but we'll get there. So don't worry, we can have some time to settle into this new year before things get crazy. And I do want to forge forward and talk all about 2026 in January, of course. But I do think it can be helpful to take a quick glance into the rearview mirror of 2025 as a point of reference, not a point of residence. So let's chat briefly about 2025 without pitching any tents to stay there. Because unlike the nodes of the moon, we are not going backwards. Now, my word for the year of 2025, because I always choose a word to kind of focus and center around, was the word play. And in true Gemini rising fashion, I actually had 2 words for the year. My other word was a rollover from 2024, and that word was permission. Together, these words form the affirmation, I give myself permission to play. And I'd like to say with my full chest that I did just that, but that would be a lie. The truth sounds a bit more like I struggle to give myself permission in general, and I struggle to give myself permission to play. But that struggle, it was always worth it. And it doesn't mean I didn't play at all, because I certainly did. Just not as much as I think maybe my intended playfulness had been at the onset of the new year. So it's a work in progress. And the reason that I chose that word in particular is because I strongly believe that playing is so incredibly important. Because if we're not having a good time here in the human experience, what the fuck are we doing? And I may not have full clarity on exactly what I came here to do on planet Earth per my mission, permission, but I know without a shadow of a doubt that I didn't come here to fucking hate it, or to hate me, or to hate the world. This life isn't one I chose to suffer through endlessly, or else I would have chosen to arrive during a time when there was like no indoor plumbing or teeth cleaning. Like, that's the version of me that chose to suffer. And she's not here in the 21st century. Thank God. Shout out to my dentist. You're doing the Lord's work. And I believe at my core, deep within my soul, that joy belongs to me. And I also believe that it belongs to you. And play, that is a portal into joy. And when I can't find the words or the clarity to articulate what I want to get out of life, I can always remember what I want to feel. And I want to feel joyful. And of course, soulful. So if you're feeling the post-holiday decrescendo, or some form of the winter season blues, or just the in-between liminal space of WTF is going on, I invite you to identify and name at least one feeling that you would like to feel this year in general, right now, today, tomorrow. This is the most Capricorn thing that I'll probably say all day, but this is your homework. Yeah, I'm going to give you homework, and it's going to be good for your soul, okay? So that's what it is. Identify a feeling that you desire to feel and place it at the forefront of your mind in your vision, using that feeling as a lens that you're viewing life through when you're making daily decisions. And that's actually all the looking back that I wanted to do in regards to 2025. Just bringing up my word for that year and inviting you into the exercise of considering a word for yourself this year. And the feeling that you want to feel and the word that you're calling in for the year, they don't have to be the same thing. But I do think it's not a bad idea for those two to kind of go together in some way, or for you to build an affirmation around it or a mantra around it or a few. Anything that helps it stick for you is great. And you might be wondering, what's my word for 2026? Since my words for 2025 were play and permission, and the feeling that I'm personally calling in now, last year, every day, forever probably, is joy. That is not my word. However, I'll tell you a very quick story to get to the word. And it goes like this. While the optimist and the pessimist were arguing over whether the glass before them was half full or half empty, the opportunist drank it. And that's me, the opportunist. So my word for 2026 is opportunity. And opportunity feels joyful to me. And giving myself permission to see it, to seek it, to go after it, that is something that I want to have at the forefront of my year. Right there, sitting shotgun next to joy is opportunity, and just opening myself up to what if, and then fill in the blank with something that's actually positive instead of the fears or the doubts or the spiraling, any of that nonsense. Flushing that down the toilet of 2025, goodbye now, is 2026. It gets to be good. So let it be good. Which feels like a great segue into the tarot. So let's continue to fill up your cup until you're so full of it, starting with the wisdom or the rose at the center of our Soulful of Wisdom tarot spread, which happens to be my birth card, Strength. In the traditional Smith-Rider-Waite tarot deck imagery of the Strength card, a woman calmly closes the jaws of a lion. She isn't wrestling it, restraining it, or trying to force its mouth shut. Instead, her touch and her approach is gentle, steady. It's reassuring. Above her head floats the infinity symbol, a symbol of continuity and strength that is sourced from something eternal and cyclical. The landscape behind her and the lion is open and bright, suggesting a calm and grounding environment. Strength is a card about vulnerability, yes, and it is also about welcoming your wild. It shows us what trust looks like in action. A soft approach, a helping hand, a willingness to receive another's guidance because it is safe to do so. Because trust is a prerequisite to safety. When we feel safe, we are able to relax. When we feel unsafe, we're on guard. We're always watching. We're always anticipating, ready to jump into action or defend. But strength is not a card of self-defense. It's a card of emotional courage, nervous system regulation, and the ability to stay present with what is intense without being consumed by it. This card illustrates the power of unconditional love. And it reminds me of a song that I adore very, very much that's called A Joyful Man. And it has beautiful lyrics that I really want to read to you. And this is how it goes. Bring your intensity. Bring your shame. Bring all of yourself to me. I have the space. Bring your beauty. And bring your love. Bring all of yourself to me. You are already enough. Now, January asks us to begin the year not by pushing harder, but by anchoring deeper. Strength at the center is about self-trust, compassion, and choosing patience over panic. It's the reminder that softness isn't weakness, it's mastery. And with that said, I also want to mention here that one small change that I'm making to the podcast this year is that we're only going to have one rose card for every month. And then we'll have different thorns, roots, and suns for the part 1 and part 2 episodes. So instead of there being 8 cards that we're talking about each month, we will be working with 7. And we'll see how we like that, and we'll adapt from there, if needed. Now let's turn our focus to the card that we pulled for our attention, also known as the Thorns, which is the Queen of Pentacles. The Queen sits on her throne adorned with earthly symbols. She's got flowers, vines, and carvings of a variety of animals on her throne. She's holding a golden pentacle in her lap, gazing at it with deep reverence and care. At her feet, there's a rabbit leaping through the foreground. It's a symbol of abundance, fertility, and the natural rhythms of the earth and all the seasons. This queen, she is grounded, she's embodied, and she is deeply attuned to the world all around her. As our Thorns, the Queen of Pentacles asks us to examine how we are resourcing ourselves. Are we tending to our bodies, our homes, our finances, and our emotional needs? Or are we neglecting some of the basics while trying to build something bigger? Very Capricornian energy here. It's good to be ambitious, but you gotta slow your roll sometimes and brush your fucking teeth, right? Now this card calls for a nourishment that is sustainable. It's not a hustle. It's just taking care that compounds over time. That's what gives you the ROI. That's what itches the scratch for Capricorn season. And you might want to rush in to help someone out or to save them, but it's worth asking yourself if the help is coming at the cost of your own best interest, or if it's taking away a valuable learning opportunity that faces someone else when they have to step up to help themselves in the absence of you or somebody else showing up to be that hero. The Queen of Pentacles says, pause, focus, touch in deeply with your own root system, make choices from a place of self-care, and you will see a harvest. Now, speaking of the root, for our basis or root, we have the 7 of Wands. In the 7 of Wands, a person stands atop higher ground, gripping a wand as 6 other wands rise up toward them from below. The terrain that they stand upon, it's kind of uneven, and they're wearing mismatched shoes, which could actually be one boot and one sock, implying that they might have been in a hurry to get where they're in this stance that really looks like self-defense. What's most interesting to me about this card is that we can't see what lies below the person who is holding the wand. We can't see if there are people that are holding the other 6 wands up at them, like pitchforks in a mob, or if those wands are freestanding, maybe they've been dug into sand below. So essentially, we're observing what appears to be someone who feels threatened. But by what? This to me speaks of how we interpret others' actions, and with wands, their energy or intentions. It's a visual of every time in my own life that I've had a it's me against the world kind of mentality. This card at the root of the spread really serves as an anchor to strength, because strength is the opposite of this card. It is the feelings of safety and trust and an openness to receive. It's essentially the antidote to the 7 of Wands. And the challenge here for these first couple of weeks in January is one of softening, despite the rehearsed reactions of hypervigilance, overfunctioning, or again, defensiveness. When your fist is closed tight in anger at being mishandled or misunderstood, perhaps even at the injustice of someone seeing your inner lion as a monster instead of the majestic and powerful being that it truly is, can you open that fist instead of closing it tighter? Before you begin to over-explain or defend, can you pause with the Queen of Pentacles and ask yourself if the fight is worth the effort? And even deeper than that, if there is a fight to be had at all. The 7 of Pentacles shows us we have the courage to defend to the end the worthwhile. And at the root of this spread, what we're being asked to do here is to develop the discernment to identify whether or not we need to be in an energy of self-defense. And if we don't, where else could we extend that energy to better benefit ourselves and the world around us? Which brings us to our final card, our sun or guidance, which is the Death card. In the traditional Smith-Rider-Waite tarot deck imagery, we see a skeletal person riding a white horse. They're carrying a black banner that's marked with the Roman numerals for the number 13, as well as a white rose. People of all classes. I'm talking kings, townfolk, children, fall before the feet of this Grim Reaper-looking knight, reminding us that death knows no titles and spares no one. In the distance, the sun rises between 2 towers, signaling that new beginnings follow every ending. Despite its reputation, this card, of course, is not about literal death or destruction. It is about inevitability and rebirth. It also looks stunningly a lot like the Knight of Cups. So I encourage you, if the Death card is kind of scary to you, which I totally get, to pull out your deck and look at those 2 cards side by side and kind of play around with the idea that they are 2 sides of the same coin, in a sense. And sit with that. Maybe that can kind of lighten the load of processing the symbolism. And as our guidance, the Death card invites us to release what has completed its cycle. It arrives to us as a permission slip to allow something to end so that life can carry on again. This begs the question, what must die with the old year so that something different can have the spaciousness to arrive in this new year? We must release any lingering attachments in order to step forward with clarity, closure, and fresh beginnings. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. Bringing something to the compost bin allows it to regenerate so that new growth can take root. Together, these cards summon a gentle resilience and they encourage a conscious transformation. Strength steadies the heart. The Queen of Pentacles asks us to tend to our inner resources with discernment. The Seven of Wands reminds us to get curious about our own projections and perceptions in order to wisely pick and choose our battles. And Death signals that a new cycle has begun along with the new year, and that which we release will help clear the path forward. With this foundation of wisdom beneath us, let's turn to the astrology to see how January's skies support this process of release and renewal, beginning with fast-moving Mercury enters Capricorn on Thursday the 1st. This is a transit of diplomatic discussions and disciplined use of our minds. It's a time for weeding out the brain rot and replacing it with knowledge that supports our longer-term visions or our desires to learn and expand our minds. Those who have this natal placement tend to speak with a level of authority, which should not be confused with arrogance. To work with Mercury and Capricorn over this 3-week period, we'll want to practice being discerning, using our judgment as a temperature gauge of the currents of conversation, not a condemnation of character when we might be misreading a scenario or missing the full context. Mercury in Capricorn is a mix of, per my last email, respectfully, and your honor. It's a reminder that it is possible to argue without raising your voice or just sounding angry. It's also possible that arguing isn't worthwhile if it only serves to agitate the end result. It's giving big Seven of Wands energy, isn't it? As Mercury moves through the sign of the Sea-Goat until the 20th, when it's going to move on, we can leverage our language to be an extension of dignity and respect. Even when we'd rather flip the bird or flip a table, let's allow Mercury and Capricorn to remind us that sometimes a closed-lipped smile is the best and only response necessary. Then we have our first full moon of the year on Saturday the 3rd, and it is a super moon, which means it will look bigger in the sky than it usually does. And that can also lead to bigger feelings as well. Especially because it's in the sign of Cancer, you might just need to cry about it. And that's okay, because crying is a form of release, and full moons, they are all about letting go. If you've listened to recent episodes on this podcast, you might recall that we have an interesting pattern of degrees unfolding with our recent full and new moons. For a quick refresher, starting last October, we had the first of 6 new moons, all taking place at 28 degrees, which means that the part 2 episode for January will be talking about the 4th of those 6. Pivoting back to the plot of this episode, beginning last November, we also have 4 full moons that are all happening at 13 degrees, making this full moon in Cancer our 3rd full moon at the 13th degree. This brings in a little bit of irony when you remember that we pulled the Death card, which is the 13th card in the major arcana. So what does it all mean? To me, it's an initiation of change, a mirror of the cyclical nature of life as the seasons shift. In the book An Astrological Mandala, author Dane Rudier describes the 13th degree of Cancer as, quote, the power of the will in shaping character. In astrological degree theory, the 13th degree is an Aries degree. You can do the quick math to get there, knowing that 1 through 12, each of those degrees goes with each of the signs. So Aries is 1, Taurus is 2, Gemini is 3, Cancer is 4, and then go throughout the zodiac till you get to 12. So once you get to the 13th degree, you're starting again at Aries because Aries is 1. And Aries is also I am. And a keyword for Aries is the word will or willpower. So I think part of this full moon is about releasing the old versions of self that aren't needed in this new season of life. We also have a lot of big Aries energy going on this year. So it's really cool to me that we have this pattern of full moons happening at the 13th degree. And we're not done yet. So we're going to have another one to talk about next month for the next full moon. But to keep us on topic here, let's unpack some of the aspects that stood out to me with this full moon. The first of which being that we have a beautiful stellium, which is multiple planets or planetary bodies all gathered together in the same sign, which of course is Capricorn, because that is where the sun is opposite the moon. That's a full moon. And it's sitting right next to Venus and Mars, which means that we have our attention on the movements that we're making to bring ourselves closer to accomplishing whatever it is that we're working towards this season. And also we're paying attention to our relationships as well, or we're needing to pay attention to our relationships as well, which has been a continued theme of recent lunations. A couple of good pause and check-in questions for this full moon are: do my actions align with my desires? Am I working too hard or moving too quickly to remember to stop and smell the roses? Have I got a death grip on the plot of my life as an action movie, but forgotten that this can be a love story too? Or maybe even a rom-com if humor would help lighten the mood and break the matrix a bit so I can see beyond the tunnel vision of my passion or my mission. The moon at 13 degrees of Cancer is also closing in on Jupiter, who is at 21 degrees Cancer. And while that conjunction is wider with an 8-degree orb, Jupiter's influence is still very much present. And because Jupiter makes bigger that which it touches, our feelings can feel bigger during this full moon, especially when you put in the layer of it being a super full moon. And the moon is also at home in Cancer, where crying feels safer. And Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, where crying might even feel a little bit luxurious. And both of those placements are very supportive. Yet at the same time, it can also feel like, you know, when you're on the brink of tears, like you were just about to start bawling your eyes out, maybe for a good reason, maybe for no reason. And then like a stranger is nice to you, or someone that you love says something like, hey, what's going on? And then suddenly the waterworks just start pouring from your eyes. That is also kind of the vibe that can come up with this full moon too. I think we're going to be really, really tender. So be gentle with yourself and with others this first weekend of the new year. Offer a helping hand or a listening ear if your bandwidth allows, knowing that not all woes are yours to carry or to solve. But it can feel a lot less lonely when someone sits beside you on the mood swings of life. So call in that support if you need it, and offer it up if you've got an abundance to share. Sometimes just your presence alone can be a remedy without words. We also have Chiron and Aries at 22 degrees, squaring the Sun, Mars, and Venus all in Capricorn, as well as Jupiter and the moon in Cancer. So there's an undertone of healing happening with a purge of emotions. This could be a feeling of it not being safe for you to show up authentically in your life, or maybe being afraid to be seen because you're mending pieces within you that have been heavy and hard to hold on your own. But this full moon says, you don't have to hold it all alone. You can ask for help. You can pick up the phone. The opposite of Chiron and Aries is Libra. That's the release point. So I really think that our villages, our people, that is who we need to lean on if this full moon is hitting us hard. And if it's not, then perhaps you're that person within the village who has the capacity to hold the space for others to heal. It kind of brings me back to that song that I quoted at the beginning of this episode, A Joyful Man, which, by the way, it's such a good song. Go listen to it. Just put it into Spotify. It's probably on YouTube. It's probably on, what's the other one? Oh, Apple Music. Sorry, I'm not loyal to the Apple. I have an iPhone, guys, finally, for the last several years, but still can't do the Mac computers. Anyways, to me, this full moon, it feels like the year of the snake beginning to shed its skin. We are shaking off last year, and as we do so, we become lighter and more empowered to step towards the fire. This is some death card energy, and death is just the last chapter in a circular book that begins once again with every rebirth. It's funny, as I'm recording this, I have a poster right above me, and it literally says, "It's time to leave the old behind. This is your rebirth, darling." And I couldn't have said it better myself. Next, there are a couple quick planetary connections I wanted to highlight that I touched on briefly that begin on Tuesday the 6th, when we will have a Sun-Venus cazimi. This will be followed by a Venus-Mars conjunction on the next day, Wednesday the 7th, and then a Sun-Mars cazimi on Friday the 9th. These conjunctions and solar connections provide us with a boost of energy, helping to illuminate how we're showing up in our relationships and what actions we're taking or need to take through a Capricornian lens. So think acts of service and minding your own business, which means not taking things personal that aren't personal and showing love through actions and not just your words. Something that I came across on the internet many moons ago that stuck with me, and it feels relevant to this week with all of these aspects and this full moon in Cancer, is a reframing that when someone is giving you a hard time, it's often because they are having a hard time. That doesn't, of course, excuse their behavior or their sharp words, but it can help bring some perspective and ultimately compassion into the fold. Instead of giving back what you get, share a fresh perspective. In a world full of mirrors, be a window. This week can bring clarity off the heels of the Cancer full moon if we allow ourselves to open up to it. So let's do that however and whenever we can. Meet the rain with a rainbow and let it pass you by just as quickly. Then we have our last transit for this episode, which is on Saturday the 10th, when we'll see a Sun-Jupiter opposition as well as a Mars-Jupiter opposition. This is, of course, because of the Capricorn stellium that I was just talking about. The Sun and Mars, both in Capricorn, and Jupiter, of course, hanging out in Cancer. These oppositions can have us really overextending ourselves. I actually just sent a text to a friend that I needed to cancel on because I'd really put too many tasks on my calendar than I had waking hours in the day. And it said, "Every time I bite off more than I can chew, I choke." And that is exactly what we want to aim to avoid with these oppositions. So this weekend, you're going to want to take a pause, check your calendar and your commitments, and ask yourself if you're trying to dot all the I's and cross all the T's without any ink in your pen. If you're listening to this before the 10th, good. You can take note of this date as one that can lead to overdoing it. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because they don't doesn't mean you have to. You are not required to bend over backwards and pull miracles out of your hat to entertain or appease the audience. You are lovely, but you are not Lady Gaga, and you do not need to live for the applause. Canceling and rescheduling can be acts of self-love when your plate is overflowing with responsibility or even with fun and adventure. So slow your roll this weekend and ask yourself if what you're doing and where you're going is aligning with what you want and the amount of energy that you actually have to give. Let the answer to that question help guide you, because while these oppositions can highlight working too hard, especially with Mars and the Sun in Capricorn, it can also bring about wonderful luck, because we're also talking about Jupiter, and Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. It is functioning really well over there. And when our actions are aligned with our inner rhythms, blessings can reach us much faster on the soul highway. So don't look at this day as one to dread, so much as one to squeeze like a sour lemon and drink down that juice at your own pace. Say yes to what lights you up and that you truly have the bandwidth for, and no to everything else. No apology, defense, or explanation needed. As we wrap up this episode, taking us back to the cards, Strength is here to remind us to stay tender with our own intensity. The Queen of Pentacles grounds us back into care for our bodies, our time, and our energy. The Seven of Wands invites discernment, encouraging us to choose presence over defensiveness and intention over reflex. And Death, standing watch above it all, confirms that something essential has already shifted, whether we fully see it yet or not. These cards speak to a quieter kind of initiation, one where courage looks like softness, protection looks like boundaries, and endings are honored as necessary companions to growth. January doesn't require that you have to have everything figured out, only to release what no longer fits, trust what is already unfolding, and meet this next chapter with authenticity and soul alignment. If you're curious to learn how the transits of 2026 are unfolding in your own natal chart, you can book a virtual reading with me through the link in the show notes, and also that's linked in my Instagram bio at @SoulfulOfIt. My holiday sale is over now, but I'm feeling really good about 2026, and I've decided to extend the live virtual readings discount from now until we usher in the year of the horse on February 17th. So you've got a little bit of time here where you can get a discounted reading. Just use code MAGICIAN when booking, and your reading will drop to $99. This discount also works for gifted readings, so just something to keep in mind. Coming up in the part 2 episode, we will be talking about the new moon in Capricorn, Venus, Mercury, and Mars all entering Aquarius, along with the Sun kicking off Aquarius season, and the big one, Neptune re-entering Aries, bringing with it a new 14-year cycle of pioneering creativity and vision. Also, I am working on an episode providing an overview of the astrology of 2026. I know the astrology of 2025 episode was really popular, so back by popular demand, I will make sure to get that out to you guys soon. And it's just going to drop on a surprise date, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you, as always, for spending some time with me exploring the cards and the cosmos. Stay grounded, stay curious, stay soulful of it, and I'll catch up with you mid-month.